So let me just talk you through about why is scaling up and why are scale-ups so important, and take you on that journey that we began, a number of us, when I was still in the banking industry, and we looked at in 2014 what the issues were for overall businesses and growth. One of the things that the government was looking at that time was what did it take to help our businesses in this country grow further and faster. And Sherry Kutu, who is an angel investor and an entrepreneur and has had many different board positions, was asked to lead that, and many of us contributed to that. And the private sector thought that that agenda was so important that in 2015, at the end of 2015, we established the Scale Up Institute to take the agenda forward, to lean in and support scaling businesses. So our founding partner is Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses, but also Business Growth Fund, Google, London Stock Exchange, Olswang, a whole range of sectors and a whole range of educationalists as well involved. And I'll come on to why that's important. We also have Innovate UK as one of our partners now as well. So what and why are scale-ups important? Well, Reid Hoffman, one of our trustees and co-founders, would say first mover advantage doesn't come from a business that starts, but from a business that first scales. And when we look at a scale-up, what do we mean? Well, we mean a business that's already established, that has had a track record of at least 3 years, over a period of 3 years, of growth at 20% in either revenue or employees, and that's the official OECD definition. And obviously we want to get more and more businesses into that arena and help them on that journey, but also help those businesses that are scale-ups as they grow further in that journey. And why is that important? Well, in the UK we've been great. In the last 5 years we have grown tremendously in relation to entrepreneurship and startups. We've actually surpassed the US and elsewhere in the world in our startup culture. And that is terrifically important. But we're not as good at growing those businesses as fast or as far as they could do. And we estimate there's around about a delta of 0.2% between ourselves and elsewhere in the world. And that gap means that we have a scale-up gap. We have some issues to address in order to allow those businesses to grow faster and further. And why is that important? Let's just look at that startup journey overall. And there's some activity between 1998 and 2008. David Story did some research across a 10-year period of businesses. And he looked at what happened in the startup community. So 221,000 businesses were established in that period of time. In 10 years' time, 83,000 had survived. Only 8,000 had more than 10 employees, and only 2.7% had achieved 1 year of high growth, that 20%. So 5,000 businesses. So that journey from startup through to high growth is incredibly arduous, intensive, and not everyone can achieve it, and not even every business survives. But it's really how we help businesses through that journey, and very much how we lean into those businesses and create more high growth businesses. We estimate in the UK today there's about 8,923 in England scale-ups. And we estimate roughly around 200 in every LEP, and I'll come back to that in a moment. If we increase, the UK overall we estimate has around 10,000 scale-ups. If we increase them by 1%, research done in 2014 said we would add 308,000 jobs and 39 billion in the short term to the UK economy. 100% of jobs in Europe in the last 5 years were created by companies that didn't exist 5 years ago. You yourselves in this room and other businesses around this country are contributing the scale-ups 4,500 jobs every week to the UK economy. 3 times as many as the FTSE 100. That's why you are all incredibly important, and it's why our universities, our schools, our financiers, our corporates all need to know about you and work with you and help you gain further growth. So what in 2014 were the key factors, and this has been borne out in subsequent research we've done last year, and we will be doing and announcing further research this year. What have scaling businesses said are important? Firstly and foremostly, the skills gap. getting access to the right talent and skills from schools and universities was identified as, for scaling businesses, one of the most critical factors in relation to your needs. It wasn't easy to access sometimes the talent you needed. Also, many scaling businesses had employees from overseas, and they found it quite difficult dealing with the whole immigration, visa dynamics and quickness of hire in that regard. Then leadership capacity. You know, when you're a two-man team, a three-person team, a four-person team, all based in London, that's great. When you suddenly go global and you've got several hundred people and you're trying to manage the culture and the dynamics of the company and the business you're running, whether it's across the country or internationally, it becomes a very different structure, and you need to look at the systems, you need to look at what sort of support levels you have, what finance dynamics you have, what client relationship management. And a lot of the businesses were saying actually on that journey, having the support of mentors, having the right type of board support, the right type of non-execs, the right type of structure internally to look at the hiring, the process and the embedment was really important. So then is what we called the export gap at the time. We're now calling access to markets. Actually gaining access to customers, both here in the UK, larger corporates getting into that door, or government, or indeed internationally. That access to markets was seen as a really critical factor in the growth of scale-ups and also their needs. We then came on to finance. Many thought finance would be the most significant issue for these scaling businesses, but it wasn't. It is actually much more talent, leadership, access to markets, the very practical day-to-day aspects of running the business. And then infrastructure, we talk about broadband, we talk about railways, but in this instance we're talking about space. We have many situations at the moment where growth businesses can very quickly outgrow the space that you're in, and it's not that easy necessarily to find the next set of premises, or you're often locked into some very difficult terms with landlords and leases, etc. So how do we create both space that allows businesses to grow effectively, and how do we make that more flexible in the space that's available? And we're very focused at the Institute now on taking forward these areas of need and working with partners on how they can create programs to support you, because this must happen at local and regional levels, and it's why we've been embarking on an education program with all of the LEPs and growth hubs around the country. And it must happen locally, but also what can our corporates and others do to lean in to support you better? How can we make this environment better for you? And that is about a series of actors that are important. No one entity, not a finance operation, not a policymaker in government, not a growth hub LEP, can actually work on their own to help this. And that's what the Scale Up Institute is looking to do. Bring together the ecosystem from corporates, educators, the support organisations like the chambers, the media, financial actors and policymakers to really work together to help you overall. And that's why, going back to our partners, they really cover those areas of focus. One of the other things the Institute is doing is we're looking at some of the leading programs that we've evaluated over the last year and a bit. Elite, the Elite program run by the Stock Exchange is a global program. It's very much helping businesses on that journey of understanding the different types of finance and how one can go from start-up growth through to AIM. The Supper Club is an environment that's been operating for a number of years by some entrepreneurs, very much about that peer-to-peer mentoring, learning and bringing people together. Silicon Valley comes to the UK about connecting businesses. It's about introducing overseas corporates and partners with local partners. And Founders for Schools is looking at the skills gap. It's bringing entrepreneurs actually into the classroom. So business owners, and I think there's about 62 of them in Swindon and Wiltshire that do this today, going into the classroom to talk to children about what you do every day. Around about 90% of children who have been through that process, who've met entrepreneurs, 90% of them change to STEM subjects. So it's really making a difference in the subjects that they choose and seeing the career paths that they have. The other key point, and I didn't talk about it earlier, but is evidence. It's the data. It's the data about knowing the growth of all of you and how we can support you. So Cambridge has created a cluster map. We will very shortly be launching a scale-up tracker that will be able to showcase those businesses scaling up across the country. I talked about access to markets, and this year the Institute's been very focused on corporate collaboration. We work with Nesta and the Startup Europe Partnership on looking at the best exemplars of corporate collaboration and also the issues that faced and are faced by early stage companies in working with corporates. You know, the strategy, the culture, the procedures, the structures, all of those can be quite barriers when you're trying to initiate activities with a large corporate. And our large corporates that we're working with and across the country recognise that they have to get better at their engagement and their process. And we're looking at really leading examples of how that operates effectively. One of those examples is Cisco. Across Europe, it was voted Cisco as a leading exemplar of how to engage in a corporate world with smaller and growth businesses. We've also been investigating more of the finance issues and the overall strategy issues and did that with Barclays and Cambridge and Saïd Business Schools. I think it's interesting because one of the things that came through when I looked at some of the research done by the Enterprise Research Centre, they did a growth dashboard and they looked at Swindon and Wiltshire and said, of all the themes that the scale-up environment and scaling businesses face, what were the themes that came through from Swindon and Wiltshire? Skills did come top. Finance actually came before sales and marketing and strategy, but all very close. So sales and marketing, strategy for the business, how you develop it, and finance and skills really came through as very strong components of need. And I think that's borne out with some of the work that we've done with Saïd and Cambridge, just in terms of how one takes that forward, some of the risk capital issues regarding finance and the gap in that. So in summary, to really embrace this, we believe you, all of you in this room, who come from multiple sectors, multiple disciplines, you are absolutely critical to the UK economy. We believe we all have to do more in the corporate financing, government policy world in helping you in that growth, and we need to really target and pinpoint that support to you. We need to work together to do that. We need to celebrate your success as well and make sure that overall, which is the aim of the Institute, it's why we started in 2015, and it's the journey that we're on. We want to make the UK the best place in the world to scale a business, not just to start a business, but to scale a business. And that's what we want to do in supporting you and supporting the partners like Rob and the teams around the country in helping you on that journey. So thank you very much. I will end there, and thank you, Rob, again for inviting me.